Welcome to Prep Central, New Mexico's premier high school sports show. This show is presented by Western New Mexico University. If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us continue to bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as on all your favorite platforms like YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. See the show notes for a discount on a digital subscription. We hope you'll consider that. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading local news source. Hey, everyone. Welcome. This week's Albuquerque Journal High School Sports Podcast is going to talk about a few things. We've got a couple of new head football coaches in Class 6A, including Siebel and my alma mater. I'm very excited about this hire. We're going to talk about Metro Wrestling, which was held last weekend. We're going to talk about Mason Posa's decision to change weights, and we'll talk about how it went. And we're going to talk a lot of basketball. Just 2.5 weeks left in the regular season. A bunch of big games coming up during that time period, starting with this weekend. And we'll talk about some of the big results that have occurred over the last few days. Hey, everyone. Welcome. I am James Yodice. I'm the high school sports editor at the Albuquerque Journal. Welcome to Prep Central, the Albuquerque Journal's high school sports podcast. It's good to have you here. So much has changed in a week. When I did this podcast a week ago, as I could look out the window here, out onto Jefferson Avenue, there was a bunch of snow here at our complex. Now it's 73 degrees, which is why I'm wearing the Hawaiian shirt today. Almost in protest because it's only February 5th and it's ridiculous that we're having 70-degree weather. I'm very upset by this. Those of you who know me as a winter person, so I'm very upset by this weather. Got a lot to talk about today. Before we talk about any of that, first of all, I want to acknowledge our sponsor, Western New Mexico University. We thank them, as always, for their support and their contributions. So, going to be some basketball today, some football today, some wrestling today. I'm not even sure in what order I want to go. I think we'll start with basketball. Look, as I sit here today, it's Wednesday afternoon. We've only got 2.5 weeks left in the regular season. And we're at that point of the season where district play has been underway for a while. In fact, most everybody has now played each other at least once in district, and now we're starting with the second matchups in district. And we're going to talk about a couple of those big ones coming up this week. So we've got a race to the finish. You know, regular season basketball, it's tough because we have 16 teams that qualify for state. So, you know, for many of these teams, it's not really a matter of trying to win games to qualify for state. It's more a matter of trying to get the best place you can in your district, which will ensure you the best seed you can get for state. You know, in basketball, you know, you want to get that home game. That's important in basketball, maybe not in some of the other sports, but in basketball, you'd rather not travel if you don't have to for the first round before the second week of the tournament comes here to the metro area. So, like I said, we're going to talk about a couple of the key games coming up. I want to start with the Volcano Vista boys, who I haven't talked a lot about in the last couple of weeks, but I was out watching them last Thursday night. They played a road game at Cleveland. They came into the game having won their previous 5 games since the end of the Metro tournament, having won their previous 5 games by an average of, I think, 41.6 points. And then they went out, the top-ranked team in the state, playing number 4, Cleveland, on Cleveland's home floor. And Volcano went out and just destroyed Cleveland. It was just really a clinic in every way. Volcano Vista won the game, I think, 87-45. So they won by 42. Right about where their average had been over the last couple of weeks. And they were up by 49 in the last minute of the game, and Cleveland got some garbage points against the second and third team guys from Volcano. So it was a tremendous performance by Volcano. And it looked very much, and I wrote this in my game story the other day, it looks very much, folks, like Volcano Vista has figured it out. You know, they played a whole lot of games around the holidays and into Metros. I think they played 10 games over a 20-day period. If you include Metros and their trip to Phoenix at the start of January, they played 7 games in 10 days. And a couple of the players, even though Coach Greg Brown didn't say as much, a couple of the players have told me, look, we were tired. And maybe that showed in Metros. They had 3 close calls at Metros. And I think that maybe got everybody's hopes up. But Volcano Vista went out and got some rest, and they have just been hammering people left and right over the last several weeks. So as we get toward the end of the regular season, the last thing anybody would want to see is this team, which was already such a heavy favorite, figuring things out. And they looked tremendous the other night against Cleveland. The starters only played until like 6 minutes left in the game. So it was a devastating performance. And if you're Cleveland or anybody, if you're watching this, you're thinking, what are we supposed to do with that? And the weirdest part was after the game, Greg Brown, their head coach, a couple of their players, Hudson Brown, his son, Ryan Gonzalez, their sniper, their guard, all of them said, we haven't quite gotten where we want to be yet. I don't know where the hell that is if they went out and beat Cleveland by 42 points and they're still not where they want to be. I shudder to think where that would be. But I don't know what we're going to get. These teams that had a chance to beat Volcano early in January, like Sandia and Rio Rancho and Hobbs, I don't know what will happen if they meet up again in the playoffs, if Volcano plays at the level they're playing at now. So we're going to have to see. So, yeah, so that was the most impressive win of the week by anybody, boys or girls, as far as I was concerned. They're in the midst of a really dominating stretch. They beat Cibola up pretty good last night on the road. So they look like they're in. They've hit that extra gear that we always talk about. As we shift over to District 2-5A for the boys, we have a key game coming up Friday night. I'm going to be there at Sandia. La Cueva's boys playing at Sandia. When they met a couple of Saturdays ago at La Cueva, the Bears overcame a 22-point deficit, got into overtime, beat Sandia in double overtime. So now La Cueva is in position to go into Sandia and basically put a hammer down for the regular season. If they can go in and get a road win against Sandia on Friday night, that would put the regular season, firmly in La Cueva's hands. So Sandia needs this win if they want to win the regular season. And I'm sure they are thinking heavily about the big lead they blew the first time they played. So I will be there. La Cueva needs a sweep. Sandia needs to split, which could put them in position for a playoff game down the road later this month. We'll see. District 5-5A boys, there's a big game in that district on Friday night too. Atrisco Heritage is playing at Albuquerque High. I was at the first game, the one at Atrisco. Albuquerque High pulled away late. They won by 17, and that was the 6th loss in a row for Atrisco, which was really scuttling. Atrisco has rebounded. They've won their last 3. They beat West Mesa. They beat Los Lunas. They beat Rio Grande. So now Atrisco Heritage is 3-1 in district. They've won their last 3. They're going into Albuquerque High, which is undefeated in district, on Friday night. So we're going to see if Atrisco's momentum carries over into Bulldog City on Friday. Atrisco has been one of the hardest teams to figure out for me and for a lot of people in Class 5A boys basketball. They've been very streaky. They've shown signs of being an excellent team that's top 5-ish, and they've at times played like a team that's barely one of the best 15 in Class 5A. So I don't know where we're at the moment. Atrisco has arrested that slide that they had. So now they're playing better basketball, and now we'll see. They've got a little bit of momentum as they go into Albuquerque High. So Albuquerque High, much like La Cueva's boys, can more or less put a hammer down in the regular season. If they beat Atrisco again, that's going to be a 2-game lead with 2 weeks to go. With a 2-game sweep over Atrisco, would be not realistic to think Albuquerque High would blow a lead like that. So Albuquerque High knows what's at stake. Atrisco knows what's at stake too. Moving down to 4A for a quick second. I got my first look, finally, at St. Pius last night, Tuesday night. They played at Highland. I've seen most of the 4A teams except Espanola Valley now. St. Pius went in and beat Highland last night, the defending state champion, 53-47. Pius was up double digits in the second half. Highland came back, cut it to 3, then they cut it to 2 on 2 separate occasions. But Pius made some big plays in the final minute of this game, hit some free throws, and they win by 6. So Pius is still leading Grants by a game. in that district. Pius is 4-0 in district. Grants is 3-1. And the only reason those two aren't switched is because Pius beat Grants by a single point, 60-59, when they met on the west side in the first district meeting. St. Pius has to go out to Grants next week, I believe next Tuesday night. And the Grants gym is a notoriously difficult place for road teams to play. I've been in that gym before. It is when the fans are engaged, the Grants fan base is really passionate. If you get a packed gym, a lot of energy, that is a very difficult gym for road teams to win in. So Grants know this. So Grants, very much like Sandia's boys and Trisco's boys, a game behind, and now they get the repeat match, and they can force a tie for first place next Tuesday out in Grants. So that should be a tremendous game. I was interested to watch Pius. This is it's a veteran team. They've got 8 seniors on this team. They've got athleticism. They've got really good guard play. That is important to mention. Look, veteran teams with good guards, man, they are going to go a long way in the state tournament. That is just, that's not 100% true, but more often than not, veteran teams with strong backcourts, man, those are the kind of teams are going to make noise in March when we get to the pit. So, Pius with a really impressive win. Here's the thing. I'm not sure how strong the rest of their district is. I haven't seen Grant, so I don't know much about them. Highland, this loss was actually more damaging to them than the win was helping for St. Pius. Highland's now 1-3 in district. They're 3 games behind St. Pius with just a couple of weeks left. Highland's not going to win the regular season, obviously, but now Highland's in a bad spot because Highland is now, I think, in 4th place in their own district, which means quite possibly a road game in the first round, and maybe one of those 9 versus 8 or 10 versus 7 games, which would be a really tough matchup. So Highland's in a bad spot. They're going to have to get things going the right direction over the last couple of weeks, and they get to play St. Pius again out at St. Pius the last week of the season. But Highland's got to get going. It just hasn't, that same mojo that Highland's had just hasn't been there. They've played, weirdly enough, a bunch of overtime games in the last couple of weeks. I think they've had 4 of their last 6 games have gone to overtime, which is just incredibly bizarre at the high school level, at any level, really. So Highland's got to figure some stuff out, or they're going to end up on the road in the first round. You don't want that because you might end up playing a team that has a good home court advantage. In basketball, that brings a big crowd, that creates energy and noise and intimidation, like a Grants, for example. You would not want to go play a school like that might have a good home court edge in the playoffs. So Highland's going to have to figure some stuff out. An academy in the other district here in the metro area, to me, even more than St. Pius. I've seen Academy a couple times. I've only seen St. Pius once. I like this Academy team better than any team in the metro area among the 4A schools right now. They're killing it. They've got size everywhere, and they don't shoot it great, but they shoot it well enough where you've got to be honest. Your best hope against Academy and a team like Artesia, who's ranked number 1, down the road, and just file this away. Artesia's got a bunch of size on this team, enough size to stand with Academy for the most part, not counting Academy's 6'10" kid, Hunter Aim. Artesia has the kind of size that could be a matchup problem for Academy if these two happen to run into each other at the pit in some round or another. The other teams in 4A that I've seen, not big enough to deal with Academy, not even close to being big enough to dealing with Academy. So that's why I mentioned Artesia. We'll have to see how that pans out. Maybe these are going to be the top 2 seeds for state, and then they'll be seeded to play each other. That would be an interesting matchup because of Artesia's size. They'd be one of the few teams that could actually stand in there with Academy. Okay, let us shift over to 5A girls basketball. Again, I'm going to focus mostly here in the metro area. District 1 5A has turned out to be the most competitive district of any of the 5A districts in either gender. Anywhere, not just metro districts, but districts outside of Albuquerque as well. As I sit here today, this afternoon, there are 3 teams tied for first. None of them are the team that was favored when we started district. That was Rio Rancho. Cleveland, Farmington, Volcano Vista, all 3-1 in league play. Rio Rancho 2-2. Now tonight, Rio Rancho's playing Cleveland. I'm going to head out to watch that game. And there are a lot of key games coming up between all of these teams over the next 2.5 weeks. So I'm not sure. This will be my first look at Cleveland's girls tonight. I have not seen them in person. And I still haven't seen Volcano Vista or Farmington. Those two play down here on the west side next Thursday, a game I'm planning to be at. So you've got a district that is, to me anyway, surprisingly wide open. Volcano Vista is as you would expect from Coach Lisa Villarreal. They're starting to get things going in the second half of a season. Not a really distinctive first half for Volcano, but they beat Rio Rancho already in district. So Volcano's got things going in the right direction. We're going to see about Cleveland, whether they can keep that up. And Farmington has been good for years. And I'm interested to see them play down here against Volcano next week. But Rio Rancho in dire need of a win tonight, or they're going to fall 2 games behind Cleveland for sure, with just, 4 games to go. 3 games to go, forgive me. So kind of an urgent game tonight for Rio Rancho. I'll be out there. It's going to be a pink out game as they support cancer research, a very commendable initiative. You rarely see this happen in basketball. In volleyball, this happens a lot, especially during October, which I think is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. You get a lot of matches that feature teams wearing pink. It doesn't happen so much in basketball. In fact, I'm not sure I've ever covered a basketball game in which both teams were wearing pink. We're going to have that tonight. So that should be a fun environment out there. District 2 5A girls, Sandia going along pretty well. They lead La Cueva by a game. Those two play each other this week. They play at La Cueva on Friday. Sandia gets another win, and Sandia beat them the first time by, I think, 18 points. So if Sandia were to sweep La Cueva, pretty much that's it for District 2. Sandia's not going to lose 2 games over the last 2 weeks. La Cueva is by far the best team other than Sandia in this district. So if Sandia gets a sweep, that district's over. We won't have much suspense. District 5-5A, interesting. The big game is coming up next week, which is Albuquerque High at home against Los Lunas. Albuquerque High has already won on the road at Los Lunas. Now the Tigers will be up here next Friday, which is Valentine's Day, the 14th. And Los Lunas is going to have to return the favor by winning on the road if they want to force a tie for first place. So we're going to see how that goes. The big game of the weekend, which I'm planning to be at, actually turned out the schedule worked out okay, is going to be in Gallup. Kirtland Central's girls are playing in Gallup. I did the first game in Kirtland 2 Saturdays ago, which Kirtland won by 14. This game is in Gallup on Saturday night. Going to be a very huge and very loud crowd. Gallup is one of the best places to watch high school basketball. I haven't been there in probably 20-plus years, but I've covered a few games in that gym, and the Gallup High fans, the girls basketball fans in particular, are extremely passionate and devoted and loud. So I expect a really intimidating environment for Kirtland Central there on Saturday night. Kirtland, a game ahead of Gallup. So Gallup needs this win. That would almost certainly force a playoff game between these two at the start of district tournament week, which is coming up fast, by the way. So I'm looking forward to getting back out to Gallup. Haven't been there in a while. It should be a fun game. Couple of basketball notes before we move on to a couple of other sports. Harper Dunn from Corona, who I've written about several times already in the journal, from Corona, tiny Corona. Corona is one of the smallest high schools in the state. She just hit the 1,000 rebound mark. She's just a sophomore. She's 6'6". She passed the 1,000 point plateau not long ago, earlier this calendar year. And now she's got 1,000 rebounds to go with it, which is, I don't know. As I sit here with you today, I do not know how many girls, if any, have 1,000 of each. Maybe there is a few, maybe there's one. I don't know. I'm going to check on that. But she's now got 1,000 of each, which is staggering. And I get it. She's playing Class A basketball. There are no girls that can stand with her. She basically just has to put her hands up and she has a rebound. But having said that, 1,000 rebounds is 1,000 rebounds. That is really impressive. We have a new addition to the 1,000 point club in girls basketball here in the metro area. Del Norte guard Bliana Agushi hit that mark at the end of January. And she joins a list that includes Monique Sena from West Mesa, who just got there recently, plus Jordan Dyer from La Cueva, Mila Espinoza from Volcano. Those two, Dyer and Espinoza, got to 1,000 during December. So we congratulate Brianna for getting 1,000 points with Del Norte. That's hard to do over a career, so congratulations to her. Okay, moving on. We've got some football and wrestling to talk about. We're going to talk about football first. So There are a couple of new head coaches in Class 6A football. Adrian Gonzalez, the former head coach at West Las Vegas and the offensive coordinator at Santa Fe High the last couple of seasons. He is now Santa Fe High's new head coach. Look, the Demons just struggle, just like Capital does since they joined 6A. It's a struggle for them. So we're going to see what Adrian does. He had a good amount of success in Las Vegas with the Dons. So we're going to see how Santa Fe moves forward. They got a lot of work to do if they want to catch up, even just to the teams in the middle of the pack in 6A. Forget about the upper level. That's probably not attainable for Santa Fe, but they can maybe reach that middle of the level pack, if things go well. So we'll see how that goes. And then there's the other one. Cibola had announced a new head coach last week, David Howes. And David is a Cibola graduate. This really caught my eye. Look, Dave has coached at a few places. He was an assistant coach at West Mesa after he graduated from Cibola. He later became an assistant coach at Cibola, early 2000s. Then he went to Rio Rancho. He was an assistant for a few years. Then he became the head coach, I think, in 2009. And from 2009 to 19, Rio Rancho won 90 games. They won 2 state championships, both undefeated seasons, 2014, 2016. And they had another game where they got to the finals against Cleveland. I think that was 2019, where they lost at home in a really close game. So Dave's pedigree, including a couple of years on Danny Gonzalez's staff, coaching safeties at the University of New Mexico. Dave has a great pedigree, no question. He's a proven winner. Having said that, and look, Cibola is my alma mater. Most of you know this. This is going to be Dave's most difficult coaching assignment, I think, that he's had in his life. Cibola's it's just been hard for Cibola to compete. They only have 2 wins over the last 2 years. They were winless in 23. They won 2 games last year. They just have not been able to keep up with the behemoths in their district, Cleveland, Rio Rancho, Volcano. Not to mention the fact that their enrollment numbers took a big hit, took 2 different hits. Once when Rio Rancho opened, going back to the late 90s even, and then another hit when Volcano Vista opened about a decade after that. So Cibola took a hit from both of these schools opening because of the boundaries for the students. And Cibola has not really recovered. They've had a couple of decent seasons along the way, but they have struggled to stay competitive. I looked it up today. They haven't beat Cleveland since 2014. That was a playoff game. They haven't beat Rio Rancho since 2013. They haven't beaten Volcano Vista in a full season since 2017. They did beat Volcano in the spring of 21, the weird pandemic spring where everybody got to play a couple of games. Cibola only played 2 games that spring. One of them was against Volcano. So I don't really I don't even hardly consider that a win over Volcano. That wasn't a full season thing. And the conditions under which everybody was playing was so bizarre. So, it's been 8 years now since Cibola beat Volcano in a full schedule season. 11 years since they beat Cleveland, 12 years since they beat Rio Rancho. And Dave and I talked about this. This is one of his priorities. He wants to get Cibola to close the gap against these teams. Cibola is just languishing. They can't beat them, and frequently they're not competitive with them. Volcano's probably been the one where they've been most competitive, but they just have not been able to be competitive with any of these 3 teams. That is one of Dave's most important priorities. It's not going to happen overnight. Cibola's got to get more bodies out. Football, more than any other sport, is dependent on heavy numbers, participation numbers. If you've got that, you got a good chance to compete. Cibola can't compare to Cleveland, Rio Rancho, or Volcano in that way. All those other schools have far more kids playing football. So Cibola starts fresh. The good news is Dave is super smart, super motivated, and he knows all the teams in this district really well. So he knows the areas that he's got to address if he wants to get Cibola back on a competitive, playing field, as it were, with these other schools in their district. Forget about the other schools in 6A, like a Centennial or La Cueva or Las Cruces or somebody like that. They got to get competitive in their own district first. That's going to take some time. But we wish Dave well. Like I said, I'm a Cibola grad, so I hope he finds a way to turn Cibola around. Last thing we're going to hit today is wrestling. The Metro Wrestling Tournament was held over the weekend at Rio Grande High School. Cleveland boys won it. Volcano Vista was second, I think by half a point over, I think it was Etrisco was in third. The Etrisco Heritage girls won by just a point and a half over West Mesa. To my knowledge, that's about the best West Mesa's girls wrestling program has shown in any major meet. So West Mesa kind of announced itself as a serious contender now for a 5A state title. State wrestling coming up February 21st and 22nd out at the Rio Rancho Event Center. So some quick individual highlights. I got to start with Mason Posa. Mason could this month become the first person, I believe, to win 4 individual state titles in 4 different weight classes. He wrestled at 215 pounds last year. He moved up for the first time in his whole career. He moved up to heavyweight last weekend at Metros, where all the big boys are. We're talking most of these top wrestlers were really good offensive linemen or defensive linemen for their football teams, most of them. So Mason moved up and won 4 matches in a single day. Now, Metros the varsity was held all on Saturday. Now, the state tournament's different. It would be half on Friday, half on Saturday. Metros, the varsity part of it was conducted all on Saturday, so everybody had to wrestle 4 rounds, or not everybody, but most everybody had to wrestle 4 matches on Saturday, including Mason. And I talked to him after it was over, and he said he was tired because he was wrestling guys that were significantly heavier than him. A couple of them were, I think, 60 or 70 pounds heavier than him. The kid he beat in the final, whose name is Israel Barraza from Manzano, the officials said that kid was 36 pounds heavier than Mason. But Mason went through that bracket and got 4 wins, wasn't really pushed, was never really in danger of losing any of these matches, and he wins the heavyweight title at Metros. So now I asked him afterwards, does that mean we'll see you at heavyweight for state? He didn't commit to that. He's not sure. He was very tired. The bigger boys were tougher to move around, he told me. But like I said, at state, he doesn't have to do all of this in one day. He would get to wrestle the first 2 rounds on Friday and then just the last 2 rounds on Saturday, which is a definite factor, I think, as he'll sit down and ponder what he wants to do. But Mason is also motivated by making history. Look, he wants to win a 4th state title to beat his dad, who also has 3 titles. And to win 4 titles at 4 different weights, boy, I know Mason well enough to know that has got to appeal to him in a big way to make that kind of history on the mat. So we're going to see. I'll update when I know, but we'll see what Mason's going to do. The marquee girls match ended up being at 165 pounds. Eloise Woolsey from Cleveland against Jaden Meadows from Sandia. Both of them undefeated. Woolsey from Cleveland usually wrestles at 152. She deliberately moved up to 165 to wrestle Jaden Meadows at Metros. And Woolsey was fantastic. She pinned Jaden in about 2 minutes and 39 seconds, I believe was the time. So about a minute into, less than a minute into the second period. Wrestling has 3 2-minute periods. So she pinned, I think, in 2:39. Jaden had never lost a high school match. She was, by my count, 81-0 entering that match. And she had never even gotten to a third period of a match. So she never really had been tested ever like she had in this match. And I interviewed Jaden on Friday, the day before she wrestled the Cleveland girl, and asked her about that, whether she was ready for a big test and what would happen if somebody pushes you and puts you in a position that you're uncomfortable in. So Jaden was interested to see how it went, and we got our answer. Woolsey pinned in 2.5 minutes, an incredible win. The bad news is Woolsey told me she's going back down to 152 pounds for state. So Jaden Meadows is going to have the 165-pound division, looks like, to herself at state, unless Jaden makes the decision to move down to wrestle at 152 at state, maybe as a way to make a statement after this loss at Metros. I'll have to check on that. That would be a really curious thing. So Woolsey, really impressive. She moved here from Hawaii last July. Her dad's in the military. She was a 2-time state champion in Hawaii. Her dad, I think, told me now he works out at Kirtland Air Force Base. So she's here. They're both just juniors. Meadows and Woolsey are both just juniors, by the way. So we may see them again. If not this season, then maybe next season. So that kind of caps the Metro Wrestling part of things. February's going to be a busy month. We started baseball and softball seasons this week. As I sit here, it's Wednesday. Baseball and softball just started 2 days ago. And they fortunately got the kind of weather you'd love to have to start your season. I'm going to be getting ready for baseball and softball seasons very soon with big preview stories. state swimming and wrestling both coming up the same weekend. 2.5 weeks left till the end of basketball. And then the district basketball tournaments, the end of this month, I think they end on March 1st, Saturday, March 1st. And then the first 2 weeks of March, we have basketball. So everything is ramping up. We're going to have a lot of fun over the next few weeks. I do hope to get a couple of guests in here, basketball related, as we lead into the playoffs. In the meantime, thank you for watching. You can find my podcast on abqjournal.com. You can find it on YouTube, probably the best place to find it. You can find it on various other platforms as well. Once again, we thank Western New Mexico University for their sponsorship. Thanks for spending some time with me, and I will see you next week.